Hi, Marcus. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm super pumped to be here.
Yeah, this is awesome. So, if you don't mind, I just want to jump right into it. Can you tell everyone a little bit about your childhood?
Yeah, of course, right? I was born and raised in a little town called Springfield, Oregon, and my parents actually were Chinese immigrants from China and Taiwan, and they actually came here in the late '70s, right? So they actually came, they had absolutely nothing. All they had was a middle school and high school education. So we grew up in a pretty bad neighborhood, 407 S Street to be very specific, right? Growing up, because my parents were not able to get hired anywhere, they started their own restaurant. So we grew up working our whole lives, right? So working in the back of our Chinese restaurant, super glamorous, as you can imagine, as a kid, right? Over time, right, we grew up just working in the restaurant. And then we worked for a long time. I probably started when I was 5 or 6 in the restaurant. And, but don't worry, I could see in her face, it was easy, like bussing tables,
Okay, but still,
doing
five,
dishes.
six, that's
I'm just
young.
saying, it's different environment back then, right? So
Yeah, it's
anyway, it was
true.
tax write-off for my parents. But anyways, with that being said, it was a lot of fun. And then eventually, when I was going to go to school, go to the university, it was University of Oregon in the same town. My plan was to continue to work for my parents, because it was easy money, and I was
Mhm.
used to that while going to school. But they actually sold the restaurant in 2002 before I started college. And at that point, I had to go get a job.
Mhm.
Because I had to pay for school myself. So I actually first got a job selling Speedos at a Speedo retail store.
Mhm.
And that was a lot of fun. Great experience doing that. I also was an assistant swim coach during that time. And then eventually, with a bunch of little odd jobs here and there, eventually I worked for a company called Enterprise Rent a Car, which most people are very familiar with. Did 2 years as an intern there. And then eventually from there, worked for them, then went to corporate life after that, so after I graduated. But that's just kind of a snapshot of my childhood.
Okay, can we rewind a little bit to the Speedos?
Sure, sure. I figured I'd
Tell us.
stop there before we go too far, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's start with that, and then we'll move on.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
So, you were selling Speedos. Can you tell us more about this experience? Like, how did that happen?
Totally. It was actually a super fun job. I grew up as a competitive swimmer, and once my parents I've never at that point had to look for a job, right?
Mhm.
And like Craigslist was starting to come out at that point, right? People still looked at ads in the paper still at that time, right? To like find jobs. So to me, that didn't really make any sense, right? So I started kind of just talking to like reaching out to people that I knew, and because I was a competitive swimmer, I talked to an old swim coach who's like, "Hey, listen, there's actually a new swimsuit store. I'm going to be the store manager there. You can interview if you want some retail hours for very low pay, right? So it's like minimum wage." So I'm like, okay. Interview, end up getting the job. It was great because it was like a 5 minute walk from school, which is awesome. So
Mhm.
between classes, if I had time, I'd just walk there, and I would just people would come in and I would sell them like Speedo accessories, whether competitive swimmers, whether just like for fun or whatever. But then what was really fun was on a lot of weekends they would have swim meets. All right, so
Okay.
I would wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning on like a Saturday, and I'd drive the swimsuit store, the Speedo store, and I'd load up a 1991 Ford Ranger pickup truck filled with Speedos, accessories, racing gear, training gear. I would drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to a local city, set up like Speedo racks and stands, right?
Mhm.
And sling Speedos all day. And I literally would be selling for like I'll probably get there by like 6.
Mhm.
Was set up by 6:30. It's pretty easy setup, and then leave by like 5:36. Drive a couple hours, get home by like 8. So pretty long days, but a lot of fun. I mean, it's all minimum wage, but it was a
Mhm.
lot of fun doing that because I grew up in an element where I was comfortable talking competitive swimming, swimming gear, easy upsells, etc. So that was like a great gig, and I did that for a couple of years. In addition to other part-time jobs that I did, but it was tons of fun.
So, how did you go from selling Speedos to building a seven-figure business?
Yeah. So here's what's really it was interesting, right? So from there, I went into let's see, I was a junior. No, I was a senior at the time. I did 2 years as a senior because I
Okay.
studied abroad. But my fourth year, if you will, in school, I got an internship that summer for Enterprise Rent a Car, and that was a really great internship. Learned a lot about running a business and all that stuff. Learn how to sell and do all these things. Had the chance to wear a shirt and tie for work, which I never had to do before. So working from a restaurant to wearing like nice clothes was like a different thing for me, right? And that was very interesting. And then from there, before I graduated in 2007, I was interviewing for different jobs. And I was looking around, and I actually had 5 job offers on the table. And they're anywhere that would pay from $30,000 a year US to $50,000 a year US. And I actually took the lowest paying one at $30,000, which was a startup division for that company. And at that point, they started a brand new division. They had 0 customers, 0 clients. It was all business to business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great opportunity for me. So because I knew the director who was heading the division, he hired me as one of his first sales reps, right? And my parents were totally against it. They were like, hey, well, hold on. Like, you took the lowest paying job. Go do outside sales where you can be cold calling people on the phone, walking in, like you've never done that before. Like, this is not like a retail sales environment. People walk and you have to go find the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, it's a great opportunity because I can build something from nothing, right? So going into that, right, it was very interesting. I remember my very first day, very first day on the job, my boss, who had never done outside sales before, right? And he came from a different part of the company. He's like, all right, he gives me a manual that was written by people who never sold before, right? And he's just like, go. That's basically it, go.
Oh, okay.
Go get customers. And because of the way the business was set up, right, we would actually rent and lease pickup trucks, box trucks, cargo vans to businesses that need to move product. Okay. Now, I've never done a cold call before in my life. I've never walked in a business before. I never did anything like that. So I had to figure it out. And it was an absolute struggle. Like, I mean, it was like, I remember my first day, I asked my boss, he said, hey, go knock on doors. I said, okay. How many businesses should I walk into? He's like, go do 30, right? And that's a good day. I'm like, okay. I came back with 60 business cards. I walked in 60 businesses that day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sold 0, okay? Sold 0 deals, didn't generate any interest at all, right? And I was like,
okay.
Oh my goodness, like, did I make a huge mistake to decide to go to outside sales, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, next day I'm gonna try again. Next day, I did 60 more, right?
Mm-hmm.
60 more cold calls, right? Walking 60 more. So within 2 days, I walked in 120 businesses, 0 interest, 0 deals, and I was like, "This is crazy." I'm like, I'm gonna fail at this. This is impossible. Like, how can I have less than a 1% chance of closing a business, right? I'm like, this is crazy. So I didn't give up, obviously, but what I ended up doing was I actually went to the public library that weekend. The public library, I got every single sales book I could find. That was the public library.
Okay.
Right. Started reading all those books, right? Started trying things out. I started buying up other books, courses, workshops, anything I can get my hands on, and started testing, and and I was implementing, tweaking it, right? And the crappy part was, at the time, all those books, all those things that are put together by these other authors, they were written by people who sold in like 1960s, right? So, like, very different environment at the time, right?
Yeah.
So tweaking, but eventually over time, I figured out how to do it right. Became their top salesperson in 3 months. And then from there, I was #1 every single month, did 7 figures in revenue that year, and then got promoted multiple times, over and over and over, and then was running small teams pretty quickly. So it was challenging for sure, right? But I didn't give up, and I went and tried to seek the education to hopefully give me a little bit of direction on what to do when I was in the field. So a lot of fun, challenging, but it was a great experience though.
Do you remember, after, going into all these businesses, what your next plan of attack was? Do you remember?
You mean after I walked into 120 businesses and 0 of them said yes to me? I wasn't really sure at the time, right? So at the time, I didn't know what to do next, right? So I'm like, I guess I'll just call them, like, okay. Like, I guess that would make sense. I'm like, I guess I'll call them. But I never picked up a phone to cold call someone in my life before, right? Yeah. And in my mind, I'm like, I am better face to face than on a phone. So if I can't convince them face to face, how can I convince them on the phone, right? So that's where I had to go study, get books, and get these different things, try to figure out, what do I say? Because I had no direction. So I had 0 direction, I had 0 help. It was basically like, go. And I had a lot of fear, especially at that time, because at that time, businesses were starting to shut down. Because the economy was already starting to tank, so businesses are shutting down. People are losing their mortgages, right? And because my territory is actually very small, I only had so many businesses to go to, right? So I literally had to go to every single business, even if it didn't make sense. So even if it wasn't my target market, I still went because I didn't have an option, right? So it was just a very, very different time. So eventually, I got to call them. I got to basically convince them to meet with me. I had to figure out a way to be successful, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
failure wasn't an option because if I wasn't successful, you know, I mean, I didn't have a job, so I could get another job. But when unemployment was starting to creep up, I'm like, could I even find another job? Was it even possible to get another job? I'm like, so I literally don't have an option for failure here. I
Mm-hmm.
can only succeed. That's the only option I have. So I'm like, I had to figure it out. I had
Yeah.
to.
And I guess that was your motivation too, is there is no other option. Whereas a
Yep.
lot of us always think like, oh, if this business fails, it's fine. I'll just start another one. But if you have
Yeah.
that mentality where you're like, no, this has to succeed, like that can be helpful, I guess.
It totally can, right? And it was definitely a fear-based motivation, right? It was like okay, like I'm like in reality, I'm like in worst case scenario, I'm like okay, like I got some savings. If I lose my job, I can
Mm-hmm.
last for a little bit, right? And I remember at the time, like I'm like I was getting so worried. I'm like, what if I move back? Because I moved a couple hours away to a different city, right,
Oh.
and to Portland, Oregon. So I'm like, I guess I can always move back home, right, to go like live with my like with my parents, like worst case scenario,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, okay. I'm like, I didn't like those options though. I'm like, my only option is I have to figure out a way to be successful. I have to, right? Like, I mean, sales cannot be this hard. It cannot be. It was, but the problem was I just didn't have a proven method, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when people kept saying stuff like, because my boss was really old school, he would say stuff like, hey, it's a numbers game, right? So you
Yeah.
guys make more dials, make more cold calls. You guys just keep putting the work in. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me, right? Like, if I'm trying to like take a blunt axe and chop a tree down with the back part of the axe,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to chop the tree down, and
Yeah.
it's going to take a really long time if I do, or I figure out which side to use and sharpen that saw or sharpen that that axe, so I
Mm-hmm.
can actually have a better success rate as a result.
Mm-hmm. So your manager, your boss at the time told you that it was a numbers game. Now you
Yeah,
have your own team. What do you tell them?
yeah. So I don't tell them anything, right?
Oh,
I
really?
I don't. I teach them, right?
Okay.
So there's a very big difference there, right? So
Yep.
and in teaching methodology of like selling, et cetera, I mean, it's so critical where this is the mistake many companies make, right? Which is they hire a brand new sales team, or if they have a new person that's in sales, they kind of do what my boss did, which is, hey, good luck, throw them basically into the wolves, right? Or they give them some sort of outdated sales material. Or
Mm.
sometimes they hire a training company in which the person training never had success in sales. So if you think about that, like they teach a lot of theory then suddenly, right? But the reality is if you want to be successful really in anything, you need to have strategy, you need tactics, you need both, right? So when I bring someone on, I teach them strategy and tactics. But also on top of that, when I'm teaching not just the why, but the how and the what, it's also working with those people directly to constantly make them better, right? Because the sales is not like I know it, then I can stop learning. It's just like anything else. If you want to know how to play violin, you can't just like you want to know how to stop doing it. You got to continue to play, continue to adjust, continue to get better over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got to stay on top of your game to really be a world class violin player. So just like that, or any other sport, with a sales team, bring them in and train them as one piece, but you got to constantly keep training them, right? If you watch a sports team, the top athletes train harder in the off season than the on season, and that's why they're good year round. That's the same thing as sales team, no different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah,
And throughout all this experience, you actually got an MBA at the same time, right?
sure did. Yep.
And I want to ask
Yeah.
you, because people, there's like this ongoing debate online where, oh, is it worth going to university and getting a higher
Yeah.
education? So I want to know your opinion about that.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe your experience and whether or not it helped you, and if you would advise other people to go get it.
Yeah. So I think I think like anything else, an MBA is simply a tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't guarantee you anything. Okay. It doesn't guarantee you success. Doesn't guarantee you really anything. And sometimes when I interact with some people, like, oh, you got your MBA. Wow. I'm not smart. I'm like, no, I'm not that smart. Okay. Like I grew up with a speech impediment. People thought I was special growing up. Okay. So learning to adapt around is all it is. Now, so let me back up. So the reason I got my MBA was, part of it was there's a couple different reasons, right? So I initially got my MBA. It started in 2009. One of the reasons I decided to do it was at that time the economy was still pretty rough. So I really wanted like just like another backup plan. And I knew it wouldn't get me a job. I knew it wouldn't get me promoted, but I knew it was like a little ace. If I was stacked against somebody else, exact same credentials and awards and recognition, if I had MBA and they didn't, then I would look better. Right. So I'm like, okay, that's why I want to do. Right. The second piece was, my father-in-law is huge on higher education. Right. He has his PhD. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be marrying his daughter. I better make sure I get my MBA as well. Right. So that was like the other reason. Right. Now, was it worth it is really the question now. Right. So, I did mine a little different than most people. So I worked the whole time. So I was working 60 hours a week, and I did it like, at night, online, on weekends. I mean, it was a crazy couple of years. Was it worth it? I don't think it didn't necessarily like help me get a job, but it did help me solidify certain things that I'd already learned, because before I started doing it, at that point, I was already running, multiple seven-figure business. I learned profit and loss, sales and marketing, finance, all the pieces of running a business I already had done by real world experience. And then going to get my MBA while doing that same time was really great to tie in concepts. I'm like, oh, this is really useful. Now, did it actually help me? Not necessarily, right? Because in fact, I felt I actually had an advantage over many people while going through the program, because we'd be interacting, discussions, et cetera. I could provide real life examples. So we talk about leadership styles, et cetera. And a lot of them that were getting the MBA, maybe their job function was very technical, very specific. Like maybe they were an accountant, right? So they want to get their MBA to go into other parts of the business. And so they would go into that program and we'd be in discussions. They could contribute to some of the other components outside of the accounting piece, right? Because, but for me, because I had my hand in everything, running the business, it was very applicable to me. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, it made me also think too. I think a bachelor's of arts or science, just getting that university degree would be so much more beneficial if we worked first before we went to go get schooling, right? Because there are certain things that I found very useful from the MBA. How do you write persuasively? Right, that's really, really important. Right, like if you don't normally do group work, how can you work in a group and work towards an end goal? Right, group presentations. Right, how to do research. Some of these scientific ways of thinking are very, very useful. Right, and that can really help. Will it guarantee you anything? No, not at all. Right. I mean, I know many successful people that did not get an MBA or get a university degree. They have a high school education and they've been massively successful, right? So there's no guarantee in anything in majority of certain things. Now, if you were maybe in like banking, they were like that too. Banking and finance love MBAs, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
I guess it depends on your area of expertise, right?
100%, right? It depends on. So if you are using the MBA to get a leverage at work, if it makes or helps the industry, if it doesn't, I wouldn't get it. Like it wasn't enough. I'd much rather get real experience, build a business, build something great to take a next level, right? Because what I also saw was after we all graduated, right, I actually ended up getting a new job, right, because I was actively looking. But all my peers in my class, they all had the same job, right? And they asked me, they're like, hey, so how like this help get you? How do you use this to get your job? I'm like, well, it didn't, because I was already looking. I was actively pursuing it, right? This helped me. I could say, hey, I also have all these accolades, but also let me show you I also got my MBA too. That was an icing on top, right? That's a cherry on top. That didn't determine success. It merely just helped accentuate it, right? That's all it was.
It was also because you started off as a doer. You were already actively 100%. Looking, and then just like you said, the cherry on top, and that's why your peers were like, what? How did I not get that opportunity? Yeah.
And I look back, and many of them are still in very similar roles. And I graduated 2011, so that's 9 years ago, and many of them are still doing the same stuff, right? They're still in very similar roles. They haven't really changed much because they thought a piece of paper that they put in a frame on the wall would guarantee them a promotion or anything else. It doesn't, right? Because there are so many things they don't teach you in school, whether it's your MBA or et cetera. They don't teach you how to sell. They don't teach you how to self-promote. They don't teach you how to get promoted. They don't teach you how to navigate complex conversations, how to have crucial conversations. They don't tell you how to influence up, laterally down. They don't teach you all these key things that are useful in working in the business world, right? It's very much a dog-eat-dog world in the business world, and you need to know how to navigate that. They don't teach you in the MBA. They teach you, basic things they're important to know, but I've never used a Pythagorean theorem to help me get business, right? I'm just saying. So
what?
I
Everyone
know.
uses that.
Shocker. I know.
I'm in awe. Like, what?
I know.
Okay, so do you think you're a good example of the American dream?
That's a good question, right? I think early on, I think the quote unquote American dream of like, you get married, you get a house, get a good paying job, for most part, right? I think you kind of hit those check marks, right? But I think the American dream is overrated. I think it's really, really overrated, right? And I think many of us are sold that's not I'll say a book of lies, but we're sold a story, right?
Yeah.
We're sold a story. Hey, be good, go to school, get a good job, work for 40, 50 years, retire, right? Like, I don't know. And only over time, by being in the working world and really seeing what's like, and being more exposed to many things, you start realizing, that's definitely important, right? Like, you definitely want money. I like to have money. I like to have stability. I like to have those things. But there's so many other things that's really important too, like your quality of life. Is your quality really good, right? And that's really important. Are you internally happy? Because I know many people who have achieved the American dream and they're not happy because they're always trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? They're always like, okay, now I need to buy this. Now I need to do this. Now I need to do this. Now I need to do this, that can be exhausting. So those are things where I think it's the American dream is very much a very simple way to think about it, right? And what people really need to figure out first is, hey, what's their dream, right? What's their dream and how they can go after that, right? And that's not determined by their parents or the society. It's based off of what they want to do, because ultimately they're going to feel more satisfied when they work towards that than what society deems is what you should go and do. That's my opinion.
I think you just redefined American dream, which is great.
Right. That's right.
It's what your dream is, what you want to accomplish,
100%.
as opposed to what society thinks you should do.
Exactly right.
So I kind of want to shift gears a little bit here and bring the story more to present day. So you just recently founded Venli Consulting.
Yes.
So your own business.
Yes.
This is your baby.
Yes.
So how is this different from all of your other experiences?
Yeah, great question, right? So the thing is, when you work, no matter the role you have, right? If you work for a company, you are never the business owner. You never own it, right? No matter, even if you're the CEO of a company, does not matter. If it's a publicly traded company, the board of directors owns you, right? So, and what it's interesting is when you work, especially you kind of see this in sales. People are in sales, but like when you are in sales, when you basically create something from nothing, right? And you see what you get to create. You're like, wow, that's really cool, right? Like I think about this, being 22 years old and building a 7-figure book of business does not mean I made 7 figures that year, okay? Because it goes to the company, right? So, and what happens over time, when we consistently have success, you start realizing like, man, like, okay, my team, we did 9 figures in revenue last year. I did not make 9 figures in profit into my pocketbook, right? Like, I wish, but I did not. Now, and also over time, you start seeing that, right? And it's definitely really, really cool to work for other companies. And work for other companies, there is a sense of stability, if you will, right? Which I would challenge actually that mindset, but you feel more stable because you know what? I got a paycheck. I got I got X, I got Y, I got benefits, right? Like even if I don't
set
perform,
goals.
I got goals, right? I got resources. You also have resources.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
You have resources. I got resources like to support me. I got different teams that can help do things to help me out, right? So there is a false sense of calm, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because reality is when you work for somebody else, no matter what, tomorrow they can say you're done, right? We're seeing that right now in today's environment, right?
Yeah.
I saw it in 2007, right? So, and so by seeing that, it's it's by seeing having success in corporate America was great, and I really enjoy. I love my time. I learned actually so many key skills, but now being able to do for myself it's very interesting, right? If you think about this, like the first 7-figure business I built, right? I didn't buy anything, right? I got paid, right? So it's kind of like, oh, hey, you know what? Like here are all these assets, right? I also had a big brand name to work off of, right? right? So there's some differences there where you can leverage different things that I had back then, but today I don't, right? So as a business owner now, it's amazing because anything I do, it's all me, right? And there's a very powerful feeling when you can make every decision for your business. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes it's really small things. It seems kind of silly, but like before working in work for a corporation, because of my role and I had a lot of employees, I would be able to post certain things online, right? If I want to post something, it'd be like, okay, I'm gonna get judged or critiqued or my hand slapped by somebody else because like whatever, right? Like that's what would happen, right? So I would not post that. I'll post on LinkedIn, but not that often. I'll just do it a different way, right?
Okay.
Have my own business. I can write whatever I want. Okay, like I can share whatever stories. I can write whatever I want, and not worry about someone say, "Hey, listen, that doesn't align with what we're doing here," right? Or, "Hey, you know what? Like, are you trying to like self promote for your own benefit when you should be working for the company, right?" Like, and there'd be certain things where like building my business on the side, people would read about that. They weren't sure about that. Like, hey, like what are you doing on the side? Like, what's this thing you got? People got weird about it. So when it's yours, whatever you make is you, right? You own the failure, you own the successes, right? Which that's always the mindset I've always had. I've always run anything I've done. I've always run like my own business, right? And now it's really my own business. So there's differences in that sense. So when you run such your own business, there's a powerful feeling of it's you. It's also a scary feeling that it's you. Right. So if you don't have any sales, you have no money. Like it's literally that simple, right?
That's how it goes.
It's really that simple, right? So, but at the end of the day, if you think about it, right, like when you work for a company, you bet on the company. When you work for yourself, you bet on yourself. So it's a very different way of thinking. And if you can bet on yourself, you ultimately have the most control. Now, is it hard? It sure is. People definitely glamorize being an entrepreneur for sure, right? People think it's like, oh, it's super easy. So I'll actually, on my Instagram page, I'll actually periodically break down my schedule for how it looks, on how intense it is, right? So people understand, like, this is not like your entrepreneur posting in front of a rented Lamborghini. Like, being an entrepreneur is hard work. There's highs and lows. There's days where I want to go back to corporate America. I'm like, oh man, I should just go back. Like I should do this. For sure, it's normal, right?
Yeah.
But when you are building something from its infancy, it's an amazing feeling when you're having these wins.
Yeah. Can you actually tell us about your schedule? Like what that looks like?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you pre-corona because like honestly, it changes a little bit now. Right?
Yeah. It's
and
changed.
So usually like it's I map everything out. So what's really important is you have to follow a routine and schedule as an entrepreneur. Otherwise, it's really easy to get nothing done. Okay.
Yep.
So that's what happens. So I wake up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock every day, right? At 5 o'clock every single day, right? Yeah. Yeah. So
geez. Okay.
Yeah. First thing, wake up. Wake up and then I change into workout clothes, brush my teeth. And then I do my pre-workout, 5:15 to 5:45. I'll do a power 30-minute workout. It's 360 to 400 repetitions of a specific muscle group in my home gym. And then from there, I'll go and I'll shower, change, get dressed, etc. I'll go downstairs to my home office and I'll actually I'll have a whole routine. So I'll write out like actually all my goals, right? All my 1, 3, and 5 year goals. And then I'll visualize. I have something that's called a vivid vision. So 1 year from now, I wrote down exactly what my schedule looks like from the time I wake up, from what I've already achieved, assuming I achieved every single goal, to how I feel in every single moment for the entire day, mapped out from when I wake up to when I go to sleep. I mapped it all out. I record my audio of myself reading it to myself, right? And then I literally visualize and listen to myself, right? For like 5 minutes, right? After all my goals out. And then from there, I'll do affirmations to get myself, mentally set and prepped, right? And then after that, at that point, it's like 6:30. So about 6:30 to about 7:30, I'll actually be prospecting on LinkedIn. So I'll be posting stuff on LinkedIn. I'll be prospecting on LinkedIn or social media, whatever channels I'm working on. And then usually, depending on the day, I'll get my kiddo up, get him ready for school, breakfast, take him to school, home by 9 o'clock. And then from like 9 to like 5, if I'm picking him up, I mean, it's stacked. So it's anything from, every hour is mapped out from, depending on which day it is, if it's writing content, to filming content, recording content, to updating coursework, client calls, because I do some consulting calls as well, client calls, business calls, partnership calls. I get a lot of people want to do joint ventures with me, so getting calls with them. It's pretty stacked until the very end, and then in between any breaks, I'll be prospecting via LinkedIn or anything else to generate leads and build any content that I might be doing. So, for example, if I have an upcoming webinar, like I might be taking time to build out the webinar, practicing it, role playing it, going through it, making sure I know my content, making tweaks and adjustments to that's done right. And then usually if I'm picking up like my kiddo, like 5:15, I'll stop, right? And any podcast interview are kind of inserted in. And then from there, right, then I'll go and pick them up. I'll make dinner. We'll hang out, family time till like 9:30, right? I'll do bath time, and my wife put them to bed. And then from there, then I actually go through, do a gratitude list. I change, brush your teeth, do gratitude list. I'll read for a little bit. I'll visualize, meditate, go to sleep at 10. And then again, next day. So it has to be structured out, because otherwise you don't get what you want done.
But it's so structured.
100%.
And a lot of people would probably ask you, like, what if something runs over time? What if something gets mixed up and a client calls you, you need to address it?
100%.
How do you adjust? You just like move things around? That's
exactly it. So, and that's where it's like, one big part of my schedule is on Friday afternoons, which it's vitally important, right? So on Friday afternoon, there is an hour block called my protected hour. In my protected hour, right, it's very important. I will look ahead to my upcoming week and see and look like, all right, is everything on my calendar, do I need to be part of? Like, do I need to be doing these things? Okay. And then I also go through and I write down 1 to 3 key priorities for the upcoming week. Like, these are overall, they must be done. Like, one of my biggest priorities for the week, right? And then when I'm mapping out my schedule, right? I'm feeling like, hey, okay, during this time, like, for example, like, I'm like, the afternoon before this, like, what I need to do this afternoon, I need to create 5 different Instagram posts, write all the text for it, schedule all of them, do some little bit of editing. I need to write 4 more blog posts as well, get that all done this afternoon, right? So I'm like, okay, map it out there. Now that's a lot to do. So that might bleed over to the next day a little bit, right? Which is totally fine, right? So I have content time built in, but overall, what are my key priorities for the week? Am I going to get it done? So that happens. You just have to be flexible, right? Yeah, adapt a little bit. But overall, where you know what your key priorities are, this allows you to slow down. You know, what's the biggest priority? What's the biggest priority now?
You have like buffer times too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So there's still buffer times too. So all intentionally, like, for example, like, I blocked the whole afternoon for like, initially before we had the scheduled, I had blocked it for just doing content, right? Then last week something happened, so I had to ask you to reschedule.
Yeah.
So no problem. Like, it's still my plan to do. I might not get all of it done, right? But at the very least, I have direction. Because the mistake many people make is this: when the transition between tasks is a critical point. So when people finish one thing and they go to something else, the mistake many people make is in between they do something to distract themselves. Right? TikTok, right? Or something, right? And then there's like, and those are designed, right, to give you dopamine hits, right? So it distracts you intentionally.
Yeah.
So if you can minimize as much as possible, right? Because then once you kind of put TikTok down, you're kind of, what am I supposed to work on next? And then you're trying to figure it out, right?
Because there's a lead time to get started again.
Yeah, just to get started again, right? So versus like, okay, if it's already mapped out my calendar, okay, oh, that's right. I'm going to do this. Let me jump right back into it, right? Or otherwise, you get whatever red bubble you have on your phone is what you go try to do, right?
Yeah, because that means you also know how much time it takes to do things. Because I feel like now, especially that I'm working from home and then I want to finish other things, sometimes I'll put way too many things to do in one day. And I'm just like, well, obviously I wasn't going to get 20 things done today. That's my fault.
Right. That happens. That totally happens, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think the key is, as long as you have like your key priorities, like, hey, what are my biggest priorities? That really helps a lot, right? I didn't start doing that until probably a few weeks into being an entrepreneur, because my calendar started getting filled very quickly, right? I started getting a little bit busy. And also early on, I'll get shiny thing syndrome. I'll be like, oh, I just heard on a podcast. Oh, I'd love to do this. Let me start working on that now, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you see something else. You watch a Gary Vee video. You're like, okay, I want to do that now. You see, you just get this like, and then I found out really hurt me, right? And it's kind of like, I got a buddy from school. He's the CEO of a company, and we got some lunch about a month back, and we just got on a call on Friday, right? And we have this great idea for this joint venture partnership for the upcoming thing we want to build out. And but right now, I'm also in the process of completely redoing one of my programs to take it next level. So, and that's going to take me like at least a month minimum, right? So I told him Friday, like, hey, listen, love this idea, what we're going to do, but I need at least a month. Give me a month. Let me get this piece down first. Because when you have too many things to focus on, it becomes very half-assed. Yeah. And I needed to make sure it was nailed for this part of the business before I add other things that I can structure out, right?
What is this program on?
So I have a digital program, right? So it's already built out, and I got a bunch of students in it. It's actually been incredibly successful for the students, for me, but it's a complete A to Z sales training program for B2B sales reps. So if you are in B2B sales, whether you have training or not, and if you're just not having success, or if you are having success, it teaches you everything you need to know from start to finish, right? From mindset to phone work to basically, I built something that I wish I had in 2007. That's what I built, right?
And from your experience, I don't know if you talked to the like the students in the class, or even like talking with clients and stuff, what do you think is the biggest mistake people make in sales?
Yeah. So I think the biggest mistake I think people make in sales is, I think first off, they think, hey, salespeople are born salespeople, right? So they kind of assume that.
Okay.
So they're kind of like, that's the first piece they kind of make a mistake of. So then when they hire people, they hire assuming, hey, you know what? Like, this person's super likable. Like, I like them. They're a good talker.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're a good salesperson, right? So one of the biggest mistakes that ties into is the best salespeople are fantastic at active listening, right? So they are phenomenal. Yes, they may or may not be good at talking. That does not matter. But they are amazing at listening. And they're so good at listening and understanding, connecting with people. This allows them to provide the best solution, right? And that's what actually the top sales professionals within a sales call, 80% of the time is the prospect talking, not even the salesperson, right? So that's a mistake many salespeople don't realize. So a lot of them, like, I'm just going to start vomiting product knowledge and whatever and all this stuff. And you might get some deals for sure out of it, right? But really, when that prospect feels and knows that you actually understand their needs and you can solve their needs, the solution is actually irrelevant because now they feel connected with, right? Like, I've sold deals that I haven't presented my offer, right? Because they simply like, okay, I don't know what you have, but based off the questions you have asked and covered, it's clear my existing program does not work, and you are highlighting opportunities to solve this problem. Whatever you have, I'll pay whatever it takes. Take care of my problem.
And that's what you do your company now, right?
Correct. Same thing. So and so actually I typically, I don't like to focus too much attention on bringing on like one-on-one coaching or consulting programs because it requires me to be like talking to them versus my digital program I can scale it, right? So I can have one person, 1 million people, it does not matter. It's the same amount of work for me, right? Because once it's already built, it's a digital asset. So now I just scale it, right? So because if I get someone on a coaching call for like a potential coaching call or consulting call, if they qualify, they'll probably get closed by me. It's a very high chance. Right? It's just what happens,
I have a personal question.
Sure.
You don't have to answer if you don't want. How many streams of revenue do you have?
I have a lot, right? I'll put it this way. I have double digits, right? Because I've been very strategic and smart over the years, right? So, and it's not like all of them are like I have 30 books out there. It's not that. I have all different investment streams too, right? Okay. I'm pretty particular and careful with my money. So early on, I would spread it out, right? So that's really important. Like early on, I learned the power of investing, and I taught myself investing in finances early on because I knew it'd be very critical, right? And that's really key. And I'll add more to it eventually, right? So some are better than others, obviously, right? It's like not all of them are amazing, but it varies. But by understanding the money is simply a tool, it could change your life, right? And mistakes many people make is they don't use it as a tool, right? They become a slave to the money.
Yeah.
Right? But money is it's a terrible master. It's a wonderful servant. So you use it as a way to serve you, and you can change your own life.
Wow, I can't even list like 12 passive streams of revenue.
Yeah, you'll see it over time, right? It just like you start adding different things in, like because it's not it's like you can. And I'm incorporating different types of investment streams too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like from owning different stocks, you get dividend payments, right?
Yeah.
If you have 401k index funds, same thing. If you have real estate, if you have ebooks, digital courses, consulting, one-on-one coaching, et cetera, and you have multiple versions of things, it just expands out pretty quick, right? So it takes time. It wasn't overnight though, right? It wasn't like overnight it happened.
Yeah, for sure. You built up to it, but career-wise, I'm just wondering, in your opinion, what is your biggest accomplishment?
Yeah. So outside of convincing my wife to marry me, that's number one. Right. So it took me like 5 years to do that. But my number one accomplishment, I would say, would be really being able to have basically impacted so many people to achieve their own success and change their lives. Right. I mean, I have literally countless stories. Right. Even before I started my own business. Right. Even now, like, I mean, I'll give you examples. So I got sent a text the other day. This is from one of my students in my program. Right. He'll probably make his best year before was $100,000 this year, or $100,000 in a year. Mm-hmm. He'll make over $300K this year, right? Because of my program, right? So he's going to quadruple his best year, and he's been in sales for 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. So now, I mean, his lifestyle is going to change so drastically, or even if he changes nothing, he has the opportunity to change his lifestyle, right? Which I think is very powerful, right? And it's stuff from that to like people getting promoted to different positions that they never thought possible, right? To achieve things. So for example, I have another client, right? So she's been very successful. She's got a great track record. And I've been working with her. This is why I want coaching clients to help her take her game to the next level and get a better job, right? She's always been a really great sales rep, but she never got a sales manager role, right? So working with her, she kept interviewing and just not even getting to the offer stage, not even getting to like really a third or fourth interview to become a sales manager. So I brought her on as a client about a month or so ago, right? And since then, she's had 3 different offers now for like multiple 6-figure packages, right? And she's changing her life as a result, right? By putting into action the things I'm working with, right? And so to me, that's a very powerful thing, is being able to impact people to do something, and as a result, their life is better, right? Whether they better the lives of their people, their family, or maybe they're more internally happy. That's something you can't put a price tag to, right? Because after a while, when you do financially well, it's something cool for sure, right? But I don't spend much money, right? So like my cost of living is not crazy high. So like after a while, you just like you find other things to be more grateful for. Like I'm grateful for like now I'm grateful I can do things like spend time with my kid. Right. I'm grateful I am with my family. I'm grateful to work with clients that take action. Right. And when they take action, they get results. So the greatest accomplishment now is, for me, it's definitely seeing people do and take action, achieve things they never thought possible. Right. Sometimes it's simply as they become a better version of themselves. They're like, hey, they're like, I just have more confidence. That's really cool too, right? Like, if they lacked confidence before, now they're more confident. Great. If they make more money, great. If they get promoted, great. If they're a better, wife, husband, etc., that's great too. So whatever that impact's going to be, to me, that's the best accomplishment for me personally.
It's the impact.
It's the impact.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All that impact.
That's awesome. And for those listening who are just starting their careers, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, very simple. Only take advice from people who have achieved what you want consistently, right? Mm-hmm. Very important, right? So a lot of people love to give advice out there. A lot. I mean, people still give me advice, right? I mean, I have people reaching out to me like saying, hey, you should do this. I'm like, are you a master at X? Like, if you're not, I don't know why you give me advice, right? Mm-hmm. So, and people love to give advice, but only take advice from people that have achieved it consistently. And that's really important because there are some one-hit wonders out there, right? So they had maybe 1 year success in whatever it is, right? Like, it's kind of like if you get a personal trainer, you want them to be in really good shape. You don't care that they're in great shape in 2011. Like, right? Like, you want someone who can still play the game, who's still doing what they're saying, and they're still getting better, right? And I found like when you do that, and you surround yourself with people that can give you the best advice,
Mm-hmm.
that will level up your game, right? That'll level up
Yeah.
your game, and that'll change your results. It'll change how you think, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, you know, like I have this friend, is love them. They love to give advice about, like, you know, marriage advice, you know, relationship advice. Nothing against them, and nothing against people that have been divorced, but they've been divorced for, like, he's been divorced 3 times, right? Like, I don't, like, yeah, maybe he's trying to help me avoid things, but I'd much rather talk to, like, my in-laws who have been together for like 40 years. Like,
Yeah.
like, that means they've weathered through it, right?
Yeah.
They've pushed through no matter the circumstances, and you can
Yeah.
learn from that versus someone who maybe has made those mistakes. So that's just, it's a little bit controversial, but it's the right way to think about it, at least my opinion, that can help someone achieve the goals they want based on listening to the right people who've done it consistently over time.
Mm-hmm. And so in my eyes, I think you're successful, and I think you would consider yourself successful as well. What do you think are the top 3 characteristics of someone who is successful?
Yeah. And obviously there's tons.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why, like, just three that you think are important, maybe to you, or maybe for people who want to sell, just 3.
Oh yeah. So number 1, massive clarity, right? And it means massive clarity to their goals, their vision, etc. Right? It's not like, okay, it's not like, oh, I want to, like, own my own business, right? Okay. Get really specific, like have massive clarity. Okay, by 2025, I want to own my own business. I want to have 5 hair salons where I oversee 5, whatever. Like you have, it's so specific, right? Okay, beautiful. So having clarity of that, right? Also having clarity to what you need to take action. Okay, that's really important. So you can't just be all head in the clouds, right? You also need to understand, like, what do you need to do consistently to get yourself there, right? So it's really important having that clarity of where you want to go and how to get there, right? It doesn't mean it's necessarily the right path. You might assume it's the right path, but you never know. So have that clarity. The number 2, you have to have perseverance, right? Like, no matter what, whatever you choose, once you set a goal, obstacles show up. And your ability to persevere and just push through is really important, right? Like I found, like, over time, that perseverance and grit to just take action no matter what has helped me in the long run every single time, right? It's always paid off by right work, pushing hard. Like, it's like, there's a great quote from the movie The Martian. I think it's the Matt Damon's in there. But at the end, right, he's teaching this class, right? He says, when you're up on the moon or in Mars or wherever, right, you're going to have obstacles. You're going to have problems. So when one problem shows up, you solve it. And after you solve it, another one's going to show up, right? But eventually, if you solve enough problems, you get to come home, right? And there's a lot of power to that message there, because when you are, as an entrepreneur, or you want to be successful in anything, you will have obstacles. I know this. I run obstacles every single day. And those days, I'm like, oh man, like, shoot, like, I can't seem to figure this out. I'm like, okay, I just need to solve this problem. And once I solve this problem, then get to the next problem. If I solve enough, my business is always going to thrive the way I want to thrive, right? So that's important. So that perseverance is really important, right? And then number 3 is adaptability. Your ability to adapt is absolutely vital, right? I think about, like, today's environment right now, right? Whatever people were doing up until this point, or until, like, a month ago, probably needs to change. So if you are not adapting consistently, right, that can really hurt you, right? To keep thinking, like for example, like, my selling style has changed over time, right? It has changed over time, because what we did in 2007 is very different now. For example, at the time, social selling wasn't as big of a thing. Yeah. Right? I started learning it a little bit later on, like 2009 or so, when really it became a social selling environment, right? At the time, it was just social media. It wasn't social selling. So then it started changing. I've had to learn and adapt to it to ensure our team keeps with the times. And it's no different from anything else. You must adapt, right? And the businesses that right now that are shutting down are ones that are not able to adapt, right? Or they adapted too slowly, right? So having that clarity, having perseverance, and being able to adapt are 3 vital things you need to have for success in anything, no matter whatever it is.
Yeah, I think those are 3 good ones. You picked 3 good ones.
Thank you. I got 3. It's good. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
But just before we wrap things up, I want to ask you one last question.
Sure.
In your opinion, what do you think is the one thing, just one thing, that got you to where you are today?
Yeah, I just didn't give up. I mean, that's simply it.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
give
a good
up.
answer.
Like, I mean, and then I'll give you an example, right? Here's a really example, right? So, um, I met my wife now, but at the time she was a random girl on buffet line in 2003. Okay,
Okay.
saw her on a buffet line. I went to go talk to her.
Wait. You saw her in a buffet line?
Yeah,
Like at
yeah.
a restaurant?
No, well, it was like we were in college, so there was like it was a free event where there's like a buffet line of free food and all that stuff, right? And being poor college kids, like you go to any free event with free food. So I saw her in line. I was with my buddies and I saw her. I'm like, wow, that girl is gorgeous. Let me go talk to her. So I go over to talk to her. She completely shuts me down. Right? Ice queen to me, right? So I walk like a puppy dog. My tail was my legs. My buddies are laughing. I said, I'm not gonna give up. We'll just wait. Before I leave, I'm gonna get her number. So before we leave there, I go back. I get her number. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
great, awesome. So over the course of the next year, I proceeded to call and text her, try to hang out, and she never responded. Right?
Not one response.
Not one response. Fast forward a year, run into her at another event. I run into her. She sees me. Right? She's super nice to me. I'm dating somebody else, so no worries, no whatever. Fast forward a year later, run into the exact same event again. I'm dating that same girl still. Right?
Uh-huh.
Nothing happens. That's fast forward a little bit. That's summertime. It's like September, right? 2006. I just came back from I was living in China for a while for school, and I'm going through I took my old numbers and moved my new SIM card because I got a new number every year. Started cleaning up numbers, and back in college, remember like you would like name people certain things. You'd be like, Laura, LinkedIn, right? Like
That's how you are on my phone.
Right.
Marcus
So, right, exactly. So hers was Caramel Hot. She's Persian, Caramel Hot Persian. Okay, so I see, and I was working. I was cooking noodles at a festival for my parents, a food cart, and I see a number. I'm like, let me just text her.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how's it going? She calls me. This is the first time she's ever called. This is like 4 years later. Okay, She calls me. I answer, and I'm like, hello, and she's like, hey. Who is this? New number, right? So I'm like, oh, hey, it's Marcus Chan. Hey, how's it going? How are you? Right? It's like super awkward now, right? So she's like, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm like, okay, hey, and we're just kind of talking a little bit. She just came back from Spain for going to school there. And I'm like, oh, and she's like, hey, she's like, I'm actually moving back to Eugene, Oregon. That's where I live at the time. Eugene, Oregon next week. I'm like, oh, hey, cool. Like, hey, do you want some help moving? I can help you move your apartment if you want some help, She's like, oh, that'd be awesome. I'll call you Saturday. Awesome. Fast forward to Saturday, never calls. Sunday, she calls, right? Hey, super sorry. I got busy. My mom came to help. We didn't need help at all. It's totally fine. We should still hang out. I'm like, sure. At this point, I'm like, whatever. This is like 4 years in the making. I'm like, whatever. It's fine. So we go get some ice cream at Cold Stone Creamery. I don't think it's a Cold Stone up there. Cold Stone Creamery, ice cream place.
Yeah.
So we get some ice cream. We hang out. I'm blown away. She's super smart, beautiful, the whole, like 9 yards. I mean, she had like a 4.1 GPA, speaks 5 languages, all these things. I'm like, okay, all right. And then we actually just became really good friends over the next 6 months, right? Multiple times I tried to go, push to more than a friend, and she just said no each time, right? So it really took quite a bit of time until finally spring 2007, is when we officially started actually kind of seeing each other. So it took about 4 or 5 years to get that point. But that by not giving up, though, right, that allowed us to start dating. And ultimately, at that point, we had another couple years, end up getting married, and, we've been able to, build a really nice life together as a result, right, by not giving up, right? And that applies to everything, whatever you do, right? Like, don't be a stalker, obviously, but you push hard. You can find a way to make a lot of things, happen in your life.
I love it. That was a great story to end off this interview. Yeah. So thank you so much, Marcus, for giving us all of your wisdom and that awesome story too. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure.